Let me tell you something about women. When a man does the right things, she never forgets him. It's not about money, looks, or fancy words. It's about presence, actions, and the way you make her feel. Today, I'm going to break down 6 powerful things that every man can do, and once you understand them, you'll know exactly why some men are unforgettable. Confidence is one of the most magnetic qualities a man can have, and it's something women recognize instantly. But here's the thing, it's not about arrogance, showing off, or pretending you're better than anyone else. True confidence is quiet, steady, and unshakable. It's the kind of presence that doesn't need validation from others because it's rooted in self-awareness and self-respect. When a man walks into a room with that calm assurance, people notice. Women notice, they feel it without a single word being spoken, and it sets the tone for every interaction that follows. When you display unwavering confidence, it tells her that you know who you are, what you want, and where you're going. That certainty makes her feel secure because she knows you won't be easily swayed or shaken by life's challenges. It doesn't mean you have all the answers or that you're invincible. It means you trust yourself enough to figure things out, even when the path isn't clear. Women admire men who have that quiet resilience. They don't need to boast about their achievements or demand recognition because their character and actions speak for them. Confidence also changes the way you communicate. When you speak with clarity and conviction, people listen. You don't have to raise your voice or dominate the conversation. Instead, your words carry weight because they come from a place of authenticity. Women, pay attention to how you handle yourself in these moments. Do you listen as much as you speak? Do you stand firm in your beliefs while still being open to other perspectives? That balance shows strength, and it's the kind of strength that lingers in her memory long after the conversation is over. Now, let's be clear. Confidence is not the same as arrogance. Arrogance pushes people away because it's rooted in insecurity. It's loud, it's defensive, and it demands attention. True confidence, on the other hand, doesn't need to be announced. It's consistent in every situation, whether you're talking to the CEO of a company or a stranger on the street. It shows up in the way you carry yourself, the respect you give to others, and the standards you hold for your own life. That's why it stands out. Women never forget the man who treats the waiter with the same dignity as he treats the executive. That behavior signals inner strength and respect, both for himself and for the people around him. Confidence also shows up in how you handle setbacks. Life will test you through rejection, failure, and unexpected obstacles. But when a man stays grounded during these moments, it leaves a lasting impression. Instead of crumbling or blaming others, he takes responsibility, learns, and moves forward. That resilience is not only attractive, it's unforgettable. Women see how you respond when things don't go your way, and it tells them more about your character than any victory ever could. Another powerful part of confidence is how it influences the people around you. When you believe in yourself, it inspires others to believe in you too. A woman feels that energy. She feels supported, safe, and inspired to rise to her own potential. Confidence creates trust because it shows her that she can rely on you when it matters most. Not because you're perfect, but because you're steady, present, and real. That's the kind of man who doesn't fade from memory, because he becomes the standard against which others are measured. Listening is one of the most underestimated yet powerful actions a man can take, because when a woman feels genuinely heard, it stays with her. Too often, people listen just to respond, to prove a point, or to redirect the focus back to themselves. But real listening is different. Real listening is about being fully present, putting your ego aside, and giving her your undivided attention. It's not just about hearing her words. It's about understanding the meaning behind them, the emotions she carries, and the experiences that shaped her perspective. When you listen this way, you create a connection that's deeper than surface-level conversation, and that connection is what she never forgets. When a man makes a woman feel understood, he validates her reality. He shows her that her thoughts matter, that her feelings are not too much, and that her voice deserves space. That kind of validation builds trust, and trust builds intimacy. Women don't forget the man who can sit with them in silence, nod at the right moments, and ask questions that show he's paying attention. They don't forget the man who remembers the small details, the subtle things she mentioned in passing, because it proves he's not just listening, he's absorbing. And those small acts mean more than any grand gesture ever could. Listening also requires patience, which is another sign of strength. It's easy to interrupt, to rush the conversation, or to jump in with solutions, but patience means letting her fully express herself without cutting her off. Women notice this, and it speaks volumes. It tells her that you respect her process, that you value what she has to say, and that you're not trying to control or fix her emotions. Sometimes she doesn't want an answer, she just wants to be heard. A man who can sit in that space without trying to rush it earns a level of respect that is rare, because patience is a reflection of discipline and self-control, and those are qualities that never go unnoticed. Another aspect of listening deeply is empathy. Empathy is about putting yourself in her shoes, even if her experiences are different from yours. It's about saying, I may not know exactly what you're going through, but I'm here with you in it. That kind of empathy leaves a lasting impression because it shows humility and compassion. A woman doesn't forget the man who doesn't dismiss her feelings, who doesn't make her feel dramatic or irrational, but instead seeks to understand where she's coming from. That kind of presence is unforgettable because it's rare. Listening is also about body language. Women are highly attuned to nonverbal cues. If your eyes drift to your phone, if your arms are crossed, if you're distracted or disengaged, she feels it instantly. But when your posture is open, when you maintain eye contact, when you lean in slightly and match the rhythm of her energy, she feels your attention. That unspoken language says, I'm here with you fully. And long after the conversation ends, she remembers how you made her feel safe and valued in that moment. Deep listening creates an emotional imprint because it builds a sense of belonging. When you show her that her voice matters, she feels seen, and when a woman feels seen, she never forgets the person who gave her that gift. It doesn't require dramatic speeches or elaborate promises. It's simple, but it's profound. Being the man who listens without judgment, who remembers the details, who respects her pace, and who validates her emotions sets you apart. That level of presence doesn't just fade, it lingers in her memory because it made her feel respected, valued, and truly understood in a world where people are too distracted to even make eye contact. Protecting a woman's peace is far more powerful than just protecting her safety, because while safety is about the external world, peace is about her inner world. A man who truly understands this doesn't just shield her from physical harm, he shields her from unnecessary chaos, stress, and negativity. Women notice when a man creates an environment where she can breathe, relax, and simply be herself. That space of calm is rare, and it's something she carries with her long after the moment has passed. When she thinks of him, she remembers how grounded she felt in his presence, how her shoulders dropped, how her mind settled, and how she felt emotionally secure in ways that go beyond physical protection. When you protect a woman's peace, it shows in how you handle conflict. Instead of escalating arguments, you approach disagreements with composure. You don't resort to yelling, manipulation, or shutting her out. You communicate with clarity and respect, even when you don't see eye to eye. That steady energy tells her she can trust you to navigate challenges without tearing her down. Women don't forget the men who can disagree without disrespect, because it shows emotional discipline and maturity. It tells her that you're someone who can weather storms without creating unnecessary destruction. Protecting her peace also means filtering out unnecessary drama. Life is already full of noise, and when a man chooses not to add to it, it makes all the difference. You don't bring chaos from your own life into hers. You don't let toxic influences or reckless behavior spill into the relationship. Instead, you create a space where she feels shielded from the things that drain her energy. Women remember the men who guard their peace by keeping their own lives disciplined, balanced, and intentional, because that stability translates into safety on every level. There's also the way you manage your own emotions. A man who can regulate himself, who doesn't lash out in anger, who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't let stress poison his interactions, gives her peace. She doesn't have to walk on eggshells, worried about when you might snap or shut down. That reliability makes her feel secure in her spirit because she knows she can lean on you without fear. Women don't forget that steadiness because it's not just about protecting her from the outside world, but from the volatility that too often exists within relationships. Another piece of protecting her peace is respecting her boundaries. When a man listens to her limits and honors them without argument or pressure, she feels safe. Whether it's about her time, her body, or her emotional space, respecting boundaries shows care and consideration. Women remember the men who give them room to recharge without guilt, who don't demand constant access or control. That kind of respect fosters trust, and that trust becomes the foundation of lasting connection. Even in small ways, protecting her peace matters. It can be as simple as running an errand when she's overwhelmed, stepping in to handle a stressful situation, or noticing when she's had enough and giving her the space to reset. These acts don't always require words, they require awareness and action. Women notice those moments because they speak louder than grand declarations. They show consistency, attentiveness, and thoughtfulness, qualities that stand out in a world where many people are too focused on themselves. Ultimately, when you protect a woman's peace, you're telling her that her well-being is a priority. You're saying, I value not just your safety, but your spirit. That kind of protection doesn't fade with time because it transforms the way she feels in your presence. Women never forget the man who brings them calm instead of chaos, who creates harmony instead of conflict, and who becomes a source of strength without becoming a source of stress. That memory endures because peace is priceless, and the man who protects it becomes unforgettable. Keeping your word is one of the most defining traits of a man because integrity is the foundation upon which trust is built. When a man says he's going to do something and then follows through, it communicates reliability, strength, and honor. Women never forget the man who doesn't just make promises but actually keeps them, because in a world full of empty words, consistency is rare. It doesn't matter if the commitment is big or small, whether it's showing up on time, following through on a plan, or standing by his principles. What matters is that his actions align with his words. That alignment is what creates trust, and trust is unforgettable. When a man fails to keep his word, it sends the opposite message. It shows that he's unreliable, that his words are cheap, and that he cannot be counted on when it truly matters. A broken promise may seem small in the moment, but it plants seeds of doubt that grow over time. Women remember these lapses and they create distance because inconsistency makes her question everything else he says. On the other hand, when a man consistently follows through, she feels safe. She knows she can rely on him, not just in ordinary moments, but when life gets difficult. That sense of security is what sets him apart, and it becomes part of the memory she carries. Integrity also reveals itself in how you treat others when no one is watching. Do you speak the truth even when it's inconvenient? Do you hold to your principles even when there's pressure to compromise? Women observe these things closely because integrity isn't about perfection. It's about consistency in character. If you say you value honesty, but you bend the truth when it benefits you, that contradiction speaks louder than your words. But if you stay true to your principles, even when it costs you, that speaks to strength of character. Women, don't forget the man whose integrity holds steady in both easy and difficult situations, because it shows he's trustworthy at his core. Another dimension of keeping your word is respect. When you make a commitment to someone, you're not just making a statement, you're telling them they matter enough for you to show up. Women value this deeply. When you keep your word, you're saying, I respect you enough to honor what I said. This creates a sense of importance and validation that leaves a mark. It's not about grand gestures. It's about the small, consistent actions that prove reliability. Remembering a date, following through on a favor, calling when you said you would. These little things add up to a powerful message. My word means something. Integrity also shows in how you handle mistakes. No man is perfect, and there will be times when circumstances prevent you from keeping a commitment. But what sets you apart is how you handle it. Do you acknowledge it honestly, take responsibility, and make it right? Or do you hide, make excuses, or try to cover it up? Women never forget the man who owns his shortcomings with honesty because it shows humility and strength. Taking responsibility builds trust just as much as keeping your word does, because it proves your words are backed by accountability. When you live with integrity, it creates a lasting impression not just in romantic relationships but in every area of life. People remember how you made them feel safe, respected, and valued simply by being consistent with your word. Women in particular hold onto this because it creates a deep sense of security. They know that when you say something, it's as good as done. They don't have to question or doubt because your track record speaks for itself. That reliability doesn't fade from memory because it becomes a standard she measures others against. Keeping your word may seem like a simple principle, but it carries immense weight. Integrity isn't about being flawless, it's about being consistent. It's about aligning your actions with your promises and your values with your choices. Women never forget the man whose word is dependable because in him they find something rare, a foundation of trust that cannot be shaken. Leading with respect in every action is what truly defines a man's character because respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship. Women notice not just how you treat them, but how you treat everyone around you. Respect is not selective. It's not reserved for people you admire or those who can benefit you. It's a consistent standard applied to everyone, from the server at the restaurant to your coworkers, family, and strangers. When a woman sees that you carry respect into every interaction, it tells her that it's not an act, it's who you are at your core, and that is unforgettable. Respect is shown in the way you speak. Words carry weight, and the tone you use can either uplift or diminish someone. When a man chooses words that affirm, encourage, and build rather than insult or belittle, he sets himself apart. Women never forget the man who makes them feel safe through communication, who never uses his voice as a weapon. Even in disagreement, respect in language demonstrates restraint and thoughtfulness. It shows that you can stand firm in your beliefs without tearing down someone else's dignity. That ability to hold boundaries while still being respectful is rare, and it leaves an impression that lingers. Actions matter just as much as words. Respect shows up in the small things: holding the door, showing up on time, listening without distraction, and honoring commitments. It's in the way you acknowledge her opinions, even if you disagree, and the way you treat her boundaries as non-negotiable. Respect is revealed when you give her space when she needs it, when you celebrate her wins without jealousy, and when you support her ambitions rather than trying to control or diminish them. These actions may seem simple, but they add up to a powerful message. I see you, I value you, I honor who you are. That message doesn't fade with time, it stays because it makes her feel safe and appreciated. Respect also shows in how you handle power. A man who truly leads with respect never uses strength, status, or resources to dominate or control. Instead, he uses them to serve, protect, and uplift. Women notice when a man uses his influence to create space for others to shine. They remember the man who doesn't compete with them, but instead collaborates, encourages, and celebrates their individuality. Leadership rooted in respect doesn't demand submission, it inspires loyalty. It doesn't force obedience, it builds trust. That kind of leadership leaves a mark that isn't easily forgotten. Another dimension of respect is consistency. Anyone can act respectfully when things are going well, but respect matters most under pressure. When frustration rises, when disagreements happen, when stress builds, how you treat others in those moments reveals your true character. A man who maintains respect even in conflict proves that it's not conditional. Women, don't forget the man who doesn't resort to insults, who doesn't weaponize silence, who doesn't use anger as a tool of control. They remember the man who stays grounded and chooses respect even when it's difficult, because that discipline shows strength far greater than physical force. Respect also extends beyond the relationship. It shows in the way you carry yourself in the world. How do you talk about people who aren't present? How do you treat those who can do nothing for you? How do you behave when there's no spotlight? Women observe these moments carefully because they reveal whether respect is a performance or a principle. A man who consistently shows respect regardless of circumstance creates a sense of trust that is unshakable. She knows he will treat her with dignity, not because of what she offers, but because it's who he is. That kind of consistency is unforgettable. When a man leads with respect, he becomes someone who doesn't just demand admiration, he earns it. He shows that strength and kindness are not opposites but partners, that true leadership is not about control but about responsibility. Women, never forget the man who elevates them instead of diminishing them, who listens without judgment, who acts with integrity, and who treats respect as a non-negotiable standard in every interaction. That kind of man doesn't fade from memory because he sets the bar higher than most are willing to reach.